everybody, what's going on? Hope you're having a safe and awesome week. Got some suggestions for you. Now, it's a list about, I think, 4 comics. I'm going to give you a brief description of 2 of them. One of them I haven't even read. So this is kind of a suggestion for you and myself. And the last one I'm going to kind of go into detail with, because this was one that, you know, there's sometimes with the channel we get lots of emails, and this one kind of got lost in the shuffle, and I'm gonna go ahead and apologize for that. I read this and it was really good. I ended up clicking on the link and seeing that it was from a comic creator who sent us 2 issues of a comic to read that he had on Kickstarter, and I read them, and I'll talk about those. That's gonna be my last suggestion, because this was pretty good. First one I'm going to talk about is a comic that I've heard a lot about and most people rave about it, and that is Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. It's an Image comic. Apparently it's on a hiatus right now, but I want to say it's got quite a few trades. So hopefully they're going to be able to finish up the story. Brief, very brief synopsis on it, because this I actually read a while back, and my memory sometimes is not all that great. I read so many things that sometimes they kind of merge together. But Saga is basically a story of 2 people who shouldn't be together are together, and they have a child. And they're trying to get this child to safety. They have these warring planets of people coming after them from both sides. It's a it's one of those that by the 2nd or 3rd page, you're like, wow. I mean, I can now understand why so many people love this series, and I can't wait to dive more into it. But that's Saga. The next one I got, again, this is a very Image-heavy list, by the way. The next one is Ice Cream Man. Now, I am a very big fan of horror books, whether it's psychological or just terrifying. This one is like a horror anthology. It's like an anthology series. It's like these one-shot stories told by a very unusual ice cream man. You don't really know what to make of him until near the end of the story. You find he's a little bit supernatural. Really good book. Can't wait to get the 2nd trade of that. Keep reading this series. This one is by W. Maxwell Prince, and the art is by Martine, hopefully I said that right, Maraza, and Chris O'Halloran. So yeah, Ice Cream Man, check it out if you get a chance. The next one on my list is the one that I haven't read yet. I've heard really good things about. I want to suggest it to you. We can read this one together. You can tell me what you thought about it. I can tell you what I thought about it. But that is The Wicked and the Divine. Yet another Image comic. This one is done by, again, I'm really bad with names, so I apologize, Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey. I know nothing about this book. I haven't even read the back of it. I just, my wife read both volumes, and she really enjoyed it, and she works at a comic book store, and she is definitely a person that if you have no idea what you want to read, she can pick it out for you. She is so good at doing that. Many of the stories that I've read this past year and Sean has read are usually suggestions from her. That's how I got into Warcorns. She happened to see it at work one day, thought the cover looked cool, the premise was cool, brought it home, we all read it, we all loved it. So yeah, that's The Wicked and the Divine. Check it out. We'll check it out together. Now the last one on my list is the one that I was speaking of earlier, that it kind of got lost in the email, but I found it today, opened the link. It is from Finish Line Comics by Edward Davis. So Mr. Davis, if you see this, I'm gonna tag you on the little picture we do for Instagram. Hopefully you see this. Sorry that it took so long. I think you sent this back in March. It's been crazy here, and like I said, it just got lost in the emails, and I do apologize for that. But it's called Immortal Era. And I'm going to go a little in depth with this, try not to do too much so I don't really spoil. I mean, it's going to be a little spoiler filled. It was a Kickstarter comic. So basically the book opens up and it's present day. I'm guessing, I can't remember what year it starts out in. It's this newscast and they're talking about how there hasn't been any deaths except for the one that happened on New Year's. The person who died on New Year's was a woman who had a brain tumor. She was the last person to die. So the newscaster sends it over to another newscaster who's at a hospital, and they're talking to the doctors, and the doctors are kind of like, it's a weird coincidence. Nobody has died. Well, apparently a reporter that was fired comes rushing in and says, this is BS. He charges into this room, opens the door, and you see all these people in just horrific accidents. Bloody, torn up, bullet holes, things like that. But they're still alive. And the hospital and the news have been hiding this from everyone. And this guy exposes it. So we flash forward to the future, and I want to say it's either 200 or 500 years. And it's basically, just you would guess, it's a dystopian future. There's band of roving, they're just people, but they're monsters, called Eaters. We're in one certain village that is kind of, the leader of it, his name is, they just call him Father. And what Father has done throughout the years is people have dumped babies on the doorstep of this village, or they've been attacked by these Eaters and the Eaters are fixing to eat them. Well, he's been saving children for years. 3 in particular he ends up, he keeps all of them, but 3 in particular he raises as sons and daughters, or son and daughters. So you have Ari, who's kind of like the youngest. She's someone who's kind of pessimistic about finding any kind of cure for this since it's been so long. She watches the front of the village. She's like a watchman or woman, what have you. Then she has an older sister named Kimberly, who is kind of this prissy. She makes the clothes and she cuts the people's hair. She's like a stylist, I guess. Then you have their brother Miguel, who is just this awesome. He's a BA, badass. Okay, who they usually send out to forage. Now the thing about him is he was born in a lottery on the surface. So people that were born on the surface that were kept for a while or long enough, they get chipped. So he has this chip, and I guess the chip helps you unlock doors. That's how it is in that future. So they're the ones. He's the one that they send out to go get supplies and try to find stuff for this just head of a doctor. It's just a head. It's got like this little spider mechanical thing underneath it named Dr. Man. But anyway, that's who they send out to do all this. Well, come to find out, he finds this book and he brings it home, and they're reading it, and basically, and here's where the spoilers for this story come in. But this is only the second issue, so there's probably so much more to this. But in the book, it talks about the woman who had a tumor that was just rapidly growing in her brain. Well, her son is with her, and it's one of those, just like every other kid would do for their parents. If there was something, at least for me, that was happening to my parents, I would do anything that I could to make sure that they could live. But the doctor's telling him that she's probably not going to make it through the night. She speaks to him in fragmented riddles, and the clearest thing that she says to him is basically that she's ready to go. Well, he ends up leaving the room. He's walking around, and somehow he makes it to this psychic. Now, he doesn't believe in psychics, but again, it's one of those last ditch efforts. I have to do this. I have to save my mother. But he happens to find the one real psychic. But there's more to her than just being a psychic. But I'll let you, if you can find this book, or these issues of the comic, I'll let you figure that out. But basically she gives him this, it looks like a ceremonial dagger. What he does is he cuts himself and it summons death in human form. And basically he kills death, is the whole thing. That's why no one can die. He kills death. It reminds me of an episode of Supernatural where death just doesn't work or something like that, and all of a sudden people can't die. It kind of reminds me of that. So anyway, he kills death. Well, when he summons death, he himself is kind of turned invisible. So nobody can really see him. So he's sitting there hacking death to pieces, and his mother dies. But because he killed death, now no one else can die. So he spends his time, since he's invisible and nobody can see him, he spends his time taking the body parts of death, since he's invisible, and he buries them in different locations. And within this book, he kind of gives you a map to where everything is, so you can put death back together again and try to resurrect him. So again, I read these 2 issues. Man, really good story. I know a lot of people are getting tired of the dystopian future concept, but for me at least, and I love zombies, don't get me wrong, but at least this wasn't just another zombie story, you know? Really interesting premise. Again, Mr. Edward Davis, I am sorry we didn't see this sooner. I read it, I loved it. If there's any chance for a trade going on Kickstarter in the future, we will try our hardest to back it. But anyway, those are my suggestions this week. Let me know down in the comments, have you read any of these? Do you plan to read any of these? Do you have anything you want to suggest to me? I'm super open, all of us are. We're super open to reading anything at least one time. If you notice, we try not to be too negative on what we read. There's enough negativity in the world, you know. If just because we don't like something doesn't mean it's not for somebody else. So that's going to do it for me, Tots. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll catch you next time. Later.